Alright, so just going to watch a couple games here where I play against Protoss in both cases. In one game I do a reasonable job of defending against what I see my opponent is doing, and another one I really don't. I just spend too much time not doing the right thing. I see what they're doing and I don't actually account for it very well at all. So here I just send my Overlord. So I do have the production open at the top. I don't actually know this information during the game. I just send my Overlord across this map. This is, I think, the largest map that I don't have vetoed in the current map pool. On the ladder there's seven maps in a given season. You can veto up to 3 of them that you will not be playing on. I have a couple of 4-player, or I think one's actually a 3-player map that's banned. There's one that just has a way too easy expansion and it's hard to play on as Zerg because, especially against Protoss, they get too many bases way too easily. So I have that one vetoed. I guess there's actually only one 3-player map, but I don't like that one. It's just the base layout. It's got way too much airspace, so it's kind of easy for other races to do air-based things, which can get the Zerg out of the game kind of quickly. So I do my normal opener here against Protoss, which is to make a hatchery on the low ground, the first expansion of the natural, then a gas and then a spawning pool. Put my workers in the gas as soon as it finishes. I was actually a little bit late right there. And then I make the spawning pool, and that way it times out so that I can have enough gas to make Zergling speed upgrade right away when the spawning pool finishes, which will let me make Zerglings. I am following this probe around with my worker, with my drone, to make sure that it doesn't put a pylon down so they can warp units into my base later, or near my base. Once it gets far enough away, I do pull this drone back and make a 3rd base. This is a little bit different than usual. Normally right now I make 2 queens with these minerals, but taking a 3rd base is also reasonable. Although it's better if you've actually seen that your opponent has a 2nd base. This is pretty dangerous if they have only made 1 base so far. Some of the all-ins are much more likely to win the game. But based on what my opponent was doing with their probe, I thought that I was okay to just take that 3rd base, so I did it. You can see by the production tab they do in fact have a Nexus building, which is good for me. That means my 3rd base is going to be fine. So I did start the Zergling speed. I started up some Zerglings just to check around the map for things and play some early defense in case they bring in an early adept or two, one of their first units that typically comes across and harasses. So my Overlord did get there, sees that they have a expansion already done, which is good news for me with my 3rd base being so fast. So I just keep making drones for a bit. The plan here is going to be to do a +1 attack with Hydralisks, which is my plan basically every game against Protoss with the current metagame, the way the game is currently normally shakes out. So I did some of my Zerglings over here. Going to send a few up the ramp to see what's going on, so I can get some more information. Okay, so my opponent's taking the gases here, which means they aren't going to be attacking soon.
Your forces are taking damage.
I didn't quite catch all the tech that they have, though, because they have it all in their main base and nothing down here. So I actually want to follow up and see. So I go up the ramp, I see the Stargate. That tells me they might be sending out a harassment unit with the Oracle. So I need to make some anti-air defenses, the Spore Crawler, which it's a anti-air thing you can morph from the drone. It's a building that you can move later if you need to. I think I also start up some extra queens because they're just really good at keeping you safe against early air aggression. They're just good in general for early defense. So you need 1 Spore Crawler at each base to be safe against the first couple of oracles. Until they start getting like 5 or more oracles, then you start needing more defenses. Especially if you have a couple queens at each base, you're going to be okay and not lose too many drones there. So my Overlords are still keeping tabs here. I see there's not a whole lot of army out front. I'm trying to keep tabs on the other bases my opponent might be taking. I don't actually do the greatest of jobs with that. No, I guess I'm fine, because I do have one at this base and one at this base over here. I guess I have to go to everyone cam to be able to ping the minimap. But I do have them at each of the bases so that I can see if my opponent tries to take either of those bases. If they do, that lets me know they aren't attacking me soon. The fact that there's not one yet by about 5 minutes means there might be an attack incoming. So I made the Roach Warren in case they have done something that involves ground units. They're useful to defend that. If I don't see it in a couple minutes here, I end up canceling the Roach Warren because I go, oh hey, there's not actually this attack incoming. So I can just keep getting higher tech units. I don't actually need to make any roaches. I have a lot of queens, which handle the defense pretty well anyway. So yeah, so you ended up canceling the Roach Warren there. I do start my upgrades here. I get +1 attack because the whole plan is with the Hydralisks. I'm not actually sure that I need the second evolution chamber. You see it's not even upgrading yet. It doesn't have the little blue bar above it showing its upgrade completing. That was mostly there as a wall. I could have canceled it if I had got there in time. That's primarily to prevent ground units from attacking me. Makes this little choke so that they have trouble getting past. And I have all my queens standing in the way right there. Getting overlord speed so I can keep checking out what's going on. Moving my queens down here to spread out the creep so all my ground units move faster. This is a base that has a really large main base. The map here does, so I always try to make sure I have some creep connecting up there too. Those creep tumors, they give a vision when they finish. And once they've finished and sat there for a few seconds, you can expand them out a certain radius as well. And the ones that are not still active will still give you the vision as long as they remain.
That mineral field's gone. Don't spend it all in one place.
You can see me selecting all various things down here. I realize, okay, I'm going to start actually making some units now shortly. So I make enough drones to have all my bases have enough workers at them. I've already got +1 attack almost done, so I'm going to start making the Hydralisks because they're the unit I want to go and attack with. I do see my opponent has started the third base over here on the other side of the map, so I'm not under a lot of threat of them attacking very soon. It's a little bit later than normal, so that's why I made some defenses with the thought that my opponent might attack me. See, they do come here and attack my third base. That's a lot of oracles. So they did have enough to nuke down my spore crawler there. They do end up killing my whole mineral line, every worker there. But I just bring my queens over, clean them up pretty effectively. They don't have super high damage output against non-armored targets. Then my Hydralisks are here, so they do anti-air as well. Unfortunately, my opponent did manage to take out basically every worker in my worker line. But I had already mined a lot of resources before then, so I still was able to make a pretty decent standing army. I realized now I didn't make the Baneling Nest earlier when I was busy messing with the Roach Warren, thinking there was going to be an attack, so I do finally start it now. Ideally, you want to have Zerglings and Banelings with your Hydralisks, because Hydralisks in one-on-one engagement are very easy to get on top of, and they're glass cannon, and they don't have a lot of hit points, so they die really fast. So my Overlord speed did finish, so I sent out all my Overlords to different places on the map to check out what my opponent might be doing. I did some of my Hydralisks here across the map. This is an Overseer with them for detection in case there's Dark Templar, things I can't see. They catch the Oracles over here just trying to gather more energy. Their attacks on those units use energy, so they need time to recharge between waves. So I see my Baneling Nest does finish. I immediately start the Baneling speed upgrade. Ideally, I start that right when I start the Hydralisk upgrade as well. A bit late on it this game. So I'm already working on my second attack upgrade for the Hydralisk. I'm getting the first one for the Zerglings and Banelings now. It's just that way all of my army can have attack upgrades, because as a Zerg you get either a ranged attack upgrade or a melee attack upgrade. You have to choose. So I'm working already on the second one for the ranged units, and now I'm getting the first one for the melee units. So I'm standing my army over at one of the places where I can see what my opponent might be doing. It's actually a little bit dangerous to be standing there. They could get stormed since I'm not actually paying attention to it. And Storm is just an area effect damage spell that Protoss have, and it's very good against this particular army if you just stand them there and don't actually spread them out any. So here the Dark Templar, I did leave detection at my bases so that they couldn't just come in here and destroy all my workers. I surround them with my workers, and they do end up killing some of the drones, but it's fine. They're not... This is not game-ending damage. This is an annoyance. So over here is where I really want to engage with my Hydralisk. You see that some of my Zerglings there got caught in a stasis ward. That's one of the abilities the Oracles have. They put these wards on the ground that are stasis snares, and then the first units to pass through them trigger it off, and this big area becomes under stasis. Units are frozen, can't attack or be attacked for quite a while. I think it's like 30 seconds. It feels like an eternity in game. So I eventually just run my opponent over because I've never actually really done anything other than make some Dark Templar after they made the initial Oracles. They're just trying to win with various units that, if you're not prepared for them, will lose you the game. But I left the spores at the bases that let me have detection so that I could clean up potential Dark Templar, even though I ended up getting a lot of workers at this base, and earlier a lot of workers at this base. I still had so much stuff that ended up being okay. So I'm going to take another look at another one where I'm less ready for what my Protoss opponent does. So this is against random, so I don't know at first what my opponent is playing, if it's Protoss or Terran or Zerg. I just do my normal plan that I do in 2 of 3 matchups, which is to take an early expansion followed by the gas in the spawning pool. If my opponent's playing Zerg and they go for some sort of really early all-in, I'm going to die to it. I just accept that fact, because even if they do spawn in Zerg, they might not be doing that strategy. And against every single other thing, this opening is fine. So as it turns out, my opponent is Protoss, and they don't take the first expansion, which should lead me to doing some different things in this game that I actually end up doing. So here's my normal thing, 17 workers, go make a hatchery. As soon as I have 200 minerals, I should be moving it down, my worker down the ramp. I'm actually a tiny bit late this time. But it's not so late that it screws up the build badly or anything like that. So I do place my buildings here since I don't know what race my opponent is. I place them in a way that's appropriate against Protoss or Terran. Because again, I've decided I'm just going to die to the early Zerg pressure if that's the thing that they're doing. I have no way of really knowing ahead of time if they are. So I just accept that I'm going to lose to that. Again, this is timed out so that if I put all 3 of my workers in my gas properly, when the spawning pool finishes, I can make a queen at each base, and I can make the Zergling speed upgrade, so I can get it very quickly. Keeps you safe against a lot of early game stuff that the Terran or Protoss could do. So as yet, I haven't actually seen my opponent at all to see what race they spawned as. See me resetting my rally point there. Once I have enough workers at my main base, I want the ones that spawn at the main base to go to the natural expansion. There's my spawning pool finishing, so queen, Zergling speed all right away. Couple Zerglings. It's always between 2 and 6 Zerglings. If I know exactly who I'm playing against as Protoss, yeah, I can get away with 2, maybe 4. Against Terran, you definitely need 4 for sure. So 4 is enough to surround a adept if a single adept comes in against Protoss. If you wait a little bit longer, you can get also 4 more Zerglings. One of the more common things they do is send 2 adepts across the map a little bit later, and 8 Zerglings will surround that. So that's really kind of where you want to be, but you only want to make about 2 or 4 initially. The 6 there it's too early to need all 6 there. Could be another drone, and that helps over the course of the game. You'll get more income by having workers sooner. As Zerg, you always have to choose if you're making workers or if you're making units, and you should be always making either almost entirely one or almost entirely the other. So I do make an early Baneling Nest because I saw that my opponent doesn't have an expansion down here, which means I think they might be doing an all-in sort of build off of one base. I should do a better job of checking up on exactly what they're planning to do here.
Your forces are under attack. A new queen.
So I did start a bunch more Zerglings. That's the right idea. So I see there's some gateway units here, the Stalkers and the Zealots. These are all things that you can do fine with just Zerglings and Banelings. And then some more Queens, because Queens are just a real good early defensive unit. I have my Zerglings outside their base to try to keep an eye on if units are coming across the map. I'm making more at home. think I have some of my overlords could be placed a little bit better. I'm not sure about morphing these banelings all the way on the map over here. This seems kind of risky without the backup. I see that I do send more Zerglings across, but if my opponent's doing an all-in, I should really be defending at home. I shouldn't be trying to go over and take the damage to them. I should just run a couple Zerglings into their base and see, hey, are they really doing this all-in, or are they taking an expansion? At this point, I've got plenty of workers. I could probably make a Roach Warren too to help me out. So you see, my Zerglings and Banelings do a pretty good job of cleaning up most of their stuff over here. But I still didn't actually go back and see if they have any tech units. I can see on the production tab they're building an Immortal, but I didn't actually confirm that what they were doing in game to see what's going on. I am spreading the creep with my queens, so I have a better warning of when the units are coming. Could have it even further out than I do. And then it also will help my units be faster. I do make a Spore Crawler out here because if my opponent has made Dark Templar, then I want to be able to make sure I see them. Since I don't have a layer yet, I can't make Overlords into Overseers. So my only way to get detection is with the buildings. So I see my opponent's trying to come with this ramp. I see their Stalkers, which the Zerglings are good against. Pull the Queens here as well. I still haven't really seen what my opponent is doing at all in this game, other than they've walked a bunch of units across the map to me, and I saw earlier they didn't have a natural expansion when you normally would. So I haven't actually made enough Banelings here for this number of Zealots. They kind of got on top of my Queens. Ideally, I would have made some more Banelings that would have exploded on the Zealots, and then I would have Queens and Zerglings fighting against Stalkers and Immortals, which are... they're very good against those units. The Zealots, though, deal a ton of damage at melee range, so you don't really want your Zerglings fighting these guys. You want the Banelings to blow them up. The Sentry here has spells Force Field that can keep their other units safe, prevents any unit from passing by it. It also has Guardian Shield, which reduces damage taken by 20% for everything that's under it. I haven't seen them actually use that this game. So my Zerglings are good at surrounding the Immortal. The problem is this Zealot keeps taking them all out of the engagement. Ideally, I should have probably made the Roach Warren here and another gas earlier, and that way I would have had some ranged units to deal with some of the Zealots, in addition to the Banelings that I have. So I try to get my Zerglings on top of the Immortals and the Stalkers, because that's where I really want them to engage. But their Zealots are doing a really good job of keeping me from doing that. So I do get, eventually, my Zerglings over there on top of the units I want them to fight. But by now, we're just getting so outnumbered here that it doesn't matter. Protoss units are just really strong. So I made a layer during all this, and I start making Hydralisks. That's probably wasted on tech, because again, could have made Roaches, could have made a bunch of them by now, and that would have made my Zerglings a lot more effective. Because I could have had ranged units earlier, so the Zerglings would get down here, and then the Roaches could fire over them at the Zealots, and then the Zerglings could go clean up these units, the Immortals and the Stalker. I hang on for a little bit more here, but I think I've already lost this game. 4 Immortals is so many. Just a large number of Immortals. Made some more Queens. Don't think I actually have enough production to hold on any longer. Like, taking out the Hatcher is a pretty big deal. I'm also out of resources. But if you look at what my opponent was doing back here, they just made a whole bunch of Immortals and Gateway units. Just came across the map. That was their whole plan. They even got +1 attack and +1 defense. So I just didn't respect enough what my opponent was doing when I saw there wasn't a base right here. If I had done that more effectively, could have been ready for this and not died to it.